Okay, so the rear uppercut has, like I said with the rear lead uppercut, Jesus Christ, let's start again. So the rear uppercut has a lot of similarities to the rear hook in terms of movement mechanics of the body, right? So as a reminder, we are getting off center, we're loading into our rear side, letting that lead shoulder turn in order to allow us to generate more torque with our punch, right? So here I am, and a reminder, same thing with the hook, lead hip and lead shoulder rotate, potential energy in that back leg, and as I rip through, boom, I'm here. That's a lot of power that's come through with a punch. Now the punch that follows is no longer this, the punch that follows is this. So the rear uppercut, let's have a look at it. So, again, as expressed, the importance of unlocking the ability to rotate your body and load into the punch before throwing it is imperative, like all these bent arm punches. The rear uppercut, just like the lead hook, a similar cue that I gave with the lead uppercut, tell yourself you're giving someone the middle finger with your forearm, right? So here you go, bang, that's a middle finger. Now, there are different planes to apply this force from, but again, we're just learning one variation of the punch, right? So I could throw my upper there, now we're hooking. The mechanics are pretty much the same. Let's go vertical with our force application. So let's cover it again. We dip, shape and posture, chin down, 70-30, and then as I talk through, I'm going to talk this hip through without coming onto my tippy toes. First third of my foot is still planted, middle finger of the rear hand has come through. So that's your rear uppercut, right? So it's dip, turn, recoil. I don't know if I brought it up in the lead uppercut side, but that recoil post punch is really important. So dip, bing, rip the hip, pull the opposite shoulder, return. There is our rear uppercut. Now, what are some of the mistakes that I see with the rear uppercut? Typically, to generate a little bit more power off the rear uppercut, the punch doesn't come directly off the chin, right? Just before launching it, it's going to sort of lag and come off the chin. But the problem I see when people do that is they drop it off the chin way too early. So they'll dip here, and then they'll throw the punch from here, right? Bah! Yeah, okay, you generated heaps of force off that punch, but there was like a genuine 2.5 seconds where there was nothing on your chin, protecting your chin, right? Because you didn't even have that line of shoulder defense because the shoulder hasn't come through yet for the punch. So you were just exposed, like, yeah, I'm here, dip, punch, for a long time. A good boxer will catch that, full stop. So, a big error is dropping that hand way too early. So we do dip, and as I start talking, it comes off my chin just the littlest bit. That little dip is allowing me to almost circle under and whip through with my uppercut. But I'm not dropping it and then whipping it. I dip, and as I come back through, there's the drop off the chin. I've already committed to rotation. Right? So I'm already rotating through my punch. I'm not loading and dropping. I'm applying the punch and dropping with that application. Right? So big common mistake on the rear uppercut is dropping that rear hand too early. That shit will get you knocked out, for sure. The other one, putting too much effort into it and ending up with your body way past your hips, and you're just onto your lead foot, right? So let's assume this is here, but for the sake of teaching. Overcommitted, hips are behind me, 90-10, I'm jammed up again. Now we had the same problem with the rear hook. So the problem is exactly the same. It's overcommitting and trying to generate too much torque or power with the punch without having the intention of recoil or returning. As opposed to this, boom, where I come back, bah, yeah, it comes back to my chin, bah, yeah, where through, I didn't think about recoil, I was just following the momentum of the punch, and now I'm stuck here. So, overcommitting or over applying too much rotation to the punch is a big problem with the hook. And lift off, just like the uppercut. Thinking that an uppercut, the only way to apply good force is going vertically. Now, we apply lift off force through the feet and through the head, I find. So doing this with your punch, which translates to that on an extreme manner. Yeah, I'm generating a bunch of upward force. No, don't do that because the force isn't transferring through the floor as well if you're coming off it. And then snapping the head up with the punch as a byproduct of trying to generate too much power. Now, the head one's an interesting one because there are 2 times throughout that punch where you're gonna commit a punching mistake. One's when you're loading up the punch, right? So when I load up a rear uppercut, a lot of the time this happens. The head turns with it because the body turns. And then I'm going to whip my head through and I'm going to over-rotate off that as well. So I've gone too far this way with my vision of my head and then I've ended up too far this way with my head. Keep your eyes on your opponent when you load up on your punches. Yeah, my head turned, but I'm still giving that side eye. And then when I whip through for the uppercut, my head comes straight on. But notice how my line of defense comes through with that. There's no point of having a line of defense if my chin is not on it, right? So what do I mean? Bing, bang. Yeah, there's a good line of defense, but my chin's over here. So this is getting a bit more into defensive responsibility, but just remember with the rear uppercut, don't drop that shit when you're loading, don't turn your head when you're loading, don't over-rotate. They're the big ones. Don't take off and over-rotate. Bad, bad, as opposed to, yeah, good. Rear uppercut. Oh, fuck.